We're going to start this project by applying 2 coats of Caviar by Dixie Belle Paint Company. I'm using my Dixie Belle mini brush. When applying paint, I like to apply it all in one direction. This helps minimize brush strokes and also helps your finish look smooth. Apply your second coat in the same way, being sure to use the same direction for your brush strokes. If you find that your paint is dragging slightly, you can mist it with a water bottle. This will help it go on more smoothly. Okie dokie, so our paint is dry on this piece that we painted the other day. It's got 2 coats of Caviar from Dixie Belle on it. I really love it solid black if I'm being honest, but I'm gonna stick with my original plan and make this super cute and trendy. I'm gonna paint some white stripes on it, and then I'm gonna put some florals on it, and maybe, I don't know, we'll see what we do to the top. I'm just gonna go ahead and mark this here around the front, and then also come around this side. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want my stripes to line up here and on the side as well. So that's gonna kind of be my marker, so I'll know kind of where to put this, if that makes sense. I'm using this as my marker here for where to start this one. That way this will line up with the side over there. Is it alright if I don't wanna feel obliged in any way? Is it alright if I waste my time and not lead myself to a mistake when I roll on by? I won't ask why, just accept and this frame will stay black, so I'm not worried about that part. And I'm just going to continue on. So you're going to use another piece of this tape, a short piece, as your marker. You're going to line it up with the end of the previous piece you just did. And then we're going to come back with another long piece to go just below it. I'm just using actually a rubbing stick from the transfer box. Kind of put that right there. And then you're going to take your little smaller, shorter piece, and then you're just going to move it down to the next row. And we're going to keep doing that until we get all the way down. Continue adding tape down the sides of this piece, using a smaller, shorter piece of tape to mark the width off between each longer piece of tape. This will give you your design. Is it alright if I stay today? Make sure your tape is pressed firmly into the corners where this flat panel meets your frame. This way you have nice clean lines of paint once you remove your tape. So for this part, I'm gonna line up my tape here and come across here. And I know that because I set it here to begin with, that I'm gonna have black here on the top. That'll be my first color right here. And I do need this really to run the whole length of this drawer right here, because otherwise it's gonna have a break in it and we'll have more bleeds. So I'll move that a little bit. Check out time far behind, leave our pride. Oh, is it alright if we Because this dresser drawer is so long, I ended up using more than one piece of what I call a marker tape. I think I used 3 or 4 pieces, little shorter pieces, along the length of the dresser. That way I could make sure I kept my lines straight as I went. Because I wanted one long continuous piece of tape going across the front of this piece, I made sure to press it down really well along this raised emblem here. I could have used separate pieces of tape that were shorter, but I was worried I wouldn't keep a straight line by doing so, and also worried that it could have areas where it didn't seal as well, which would cause bleeds once I started painting. All right, so the next thing you're going to want to do when painting stripes, and probably really the most important thing besides just having a good tape job, is you're going to want to paint your base coat color again over top of your tape that you've just put down. So if I just started painting my stripes here, I'm using white, but if I just went ahead and painted my stripes on, I may have bleeds underneath this tape where it's not sealed, it's not pressed down really good, so that when you take off your tape later, you're gonna see where you don't have a perfect straight white line, you're gonna see bleeds where the white kind of went under the tape and got onto the area where the black is supposed to be, and it's just gonna look flawed and smudged and not perfect. So to avoid that, you should put on a base coat, again, of your base color over top of your lines where your paint or where your tape is. And what that's going to do is seal your tape to the piece so that when you come back with your color that you're using for your stripes, it's not going to bleed under your tape, because the black, my base coat here, has already bled under the tape, so that it won't mess it up and you won't have ugly lines, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back with my base coat color. In this case, it's Caviar, and I'm going to paint black all over. You can just paint the whole thing if you want. It just sometimes makes it a little bit more difficult to get your tape up afterwards, or for you to find your tape. But I'm just going to paint right along the edges here to make sure I paint where that tape meets my black paint. And what that's going to do is it's going to seal that tape to my piece, and then after that dries, I'm going to come back and actually paint my stripes. Is it alright if we just stay today? For your second color, which will be the color of the actual stripes here that we're painting, you're going to want to put on at least 2 coats. You want to make sure you have good coverage, and this will also help to build it up a little bit so it'll look a little raised compared to your base coat. Okay, now it's time for the fun part. We get to peel our tape back and see how our paint looks. And this line right here is almost perfect. You can see a little bit of white paint right there. It's actually on the top part of the drawer where I didn't tape it off. No big deal. We can come right back over that with the Caviar. And we're going to keep peeling. And we see beautiful, flawless paint lines, which make my heart so happy. There's one little place on one of the stripes that had a little tiny bleed. If you have those, you can distress over it. If you want to distress the whole piece, it'll kind of hide and blur it. In my case, I ended up putting a transfer on this piece, so typically it will cover it up. But I am just a little bit OCD, and so I took a little dental pick and repaired just by using it to dip in my paint and paint over the areas where I had little tiny blemishes. But for the most part, I would say this turned out about 98% perfect. And again, this is just because we primed over our paint with our base, or I'm sorry, over our tape with our base color. And what that does is it seals in the tape. It kind of seals it or glues it down, so to speak, to your piece, so that when you come back over it with your next color, which is your color for your stripes, it does not bleed up under the tape. And so then you end up with these perfect, flawless lines. I mean, is it just me, or does anybody else find this so satisfying to watch? Just peeling that tape back. It's just so funny. And then obviously finding that you have perfect lines underneath is just the icing on the cake. Ta-da! Another side with perfect, clean lines. So fabulous. So at this point, we have beautiful, crisp lines in our paint, and you can choose to leave it as is. You could distress it if you wanted a little more worn look. You could add some gold leaf if you wanted to add a little bling, or you can dress it up with a transfer. And I ended up deciding to put a transfer on my sides, and that reveal will have to be later. Here's the part I can reveal right now. Perfect stripes and a beautiful piece. Thanks for watching.
Is it alright?